Alright, today I'm talking about what makes the Ibanez RG550 Genesis great. I sold one of my 7 strings in order to get another one of these to have in a different tuning. Not throwing any shade at any other companies or anything, I just wasn't playing it as much. So in this video I'll talk about what makes this model of guitar pretty good. And it's kind of a review, but more of an informal discussion. I have reviewed my Road Flare Red model and also given updates on that too, so you can check out those videos if you want. But also, I am still not sponsored. So first, a brief history on the Ibanez RG550. The model was introduced in 1987. It was introduced as an alternative to the Gem. It was first called the Roadstar series and was later renamed the RG in 1992. It ran until, I believe, 1994, and then according to my research, in 1995 and 6, there was a model with the rosewood fretboard, so not the maple fretboard, and it was called the RG550R. In 2007, there was a re-release of the 550, so that was the RG550 MXX with the maple fretboard and RXX with the rosewood. In 2013 and 2014, there was Japan-only artist Genesis models. And finally, the Genesis collection was available worldwide in 2017. And so that history does explain some of the features on this guitar that we'll get into later. So why is this model of guitar great? And first of all, I think it provides good peace of mind. Let me explain. The pickguard means that you're not damaging the finish with your pick or your fingers like that. You can replace it if you don't like the scratched up pickguard look after a while, or you can even have more customization options by getting one in a different color. I do prefer access to the electronics on the back of the guitar, so it's less difficult to get to those electronics right here. If there's any problems, you don't have to futz with the strings or anything. And I have had problems on my other Prestige guitars on some of them. Some wiring has failed. But knock on wood, I haven't had any problems with the Genesis guitars yet. And I also personally prefer the look of this dark pickguard on these kind of loud colors. I think it's a nice contrast. And on top of that, it has a pretty versatile pickup layout. It has the HSH. You can get all kinds of tones with the 5-way switch. And more recently, I have been branching out just a little bit, using position 4 especially. My favorite kind of clean tones come from the neck humbucker, but more and more I've been using position 4. Of course, the drawback is you have to lower the middle single coil if you're a heavy picker. And I've lowered it in this guitar and my other guitars with middle single coils. And it doesn't affect the tone too much. Of course, if you are using the position 3, so the middle single coil only, then there is some drop in volume. But it hasn't hurt the tones for position 2 and 4 for me, not that much of it all. I actually don't think I've mentioned this on video yet, but I'm pretty sure that position 4 is using the middle and the adjacent coil with the neck pickup, and position 2 uses the middle and the bridge adjacent coil. I think if I was speccing out my own personal Ibanez, I would just have the 2 humbuckers and the 5-way switch. But I never thought I'd say this, the HSH configuration. The HSH configuration is becoming basically my second favorite pickup setup, which is odd to me because I've always loved the 2 humbuckers, the 3-way switch a lot. And now the major point that probably draws everyone to this guitar is the price. You're getting a made in Japan guitar for $1,000 USD, and that is a pretty good deal, I'd say. You could get 2 of these for the price of Ibanez Prestige with the stainless steel frets, because some of those are $2,000. And others with different features cost even more, like the ones with the Fishman Fluence pickups, I believe cost a little more. So it's really great you get such an awesome guitar for such a price. Again, I sold one of my 7 strings. I sold my Schecter E7 to get this guitar. But of course, you don't have to buy 2 of these. You could just buy one and have budget for other things. Like you could buy DAWs, you could buy plugins, cables, You could buy replacement pickups if you want, but I'll talk about it later. These pickups don't sound bad at all. You get the idea. But if you do buy two, then you can have two guitars with the same pickups, the same kind of playing feel, because these, now that I have two, have been pretty consistent in feel and playability. So you can have the same kind of guitar feel, but have different tunings. Of course, if you got different string gauges for the different tunings, then those will feel slightly different, but you get the idea. Of course, it is possible to have one guitar and just change the tuning, but depending on how often you're doing that, that's going to be a lot of time down the drain. You're either changing the strings or you're just dealing with them either being too tight or too loose, too floppy for one or the other tuning or multiple tunings. There's the question of setup. Are you going to do the intonation every time? Now, of course, as I've mentioned before, this guitar plays great. It plays really well. And I do have to mention this tilt joint right here. It's not as good as the all-access neck joint in terms of just sheer fret access. It isn't the end of the world, especially if you have larger hands. You could just wrap around it and you can still pretty much access the 24th fret on the high E string. But if you have the guitar high up enough, you can get your thumb behind it, or you can even just reach around it like that, see? And then of course it has the fast Ibanez neck profile. I think it's called the Super Wizard on the website. And it's more in line with the neck profiles on the Prestige guitars, which is great in the context of the price too, because this is $1,000 USD, but you have other Ibanez guitar models that aren't made in Japan. So they've got more the Wizard 3 style of neck profile, or the premium neck profile. That's a bit different on some guitar models. And those are great neck profiles too, but they're not as thin. In a way, that's a counterpoint against this guitar. If you don't like really thin necks, you want something thicker. But if you do like the thin, super shreddy necks, and I'm not saying those other necks aren't shreddy, but if you do like the thinner necks, then this is pretty good. So in summary, you have that thin, flat, and fast playing Ibanez neck. Now, related to playability, I'd say are the controls and the bridge. Let's talk about the controls. The controls are in a pretty good spot. Of course, the blade switch is in a pretty natural position, which isn't unique to the Genesis. But these do come with these witch hat knobs, which is pretty nice because the volume pot is relatively close to the bridge and the strings. So these witch hats give you just a bit more clearance. I actually don't think I've bumped into these when playing, except in this video right here when I'm doing this exaggerated motion while holding the guitar vertical. Like this, it's just fine. And on my Road Flare Red one, I have switched out the knobs for the Nerd ones. These right here you can see. And I do hit them with my fingers sometimes. Here, I gotta reach a bit, but yeah, I do hit them with my fingers sometimes. But I mean, that is kind of on me, but it is still pretty playable. And it happens less and less the more I play this. And of course the edge bridge, it's pretty stable. The fine tuners turn pretty well. Works pretty great after you set it up. And it is comfortable against the hand. It's that kind of Floyd Rose kind of shape. I like it a lot. The Low Pro is my favorite bridge of all time. But this feels really good too. So, what are your thoughts? Do you like the RG550 Genesis? Is it a great deal for a made-in-Japan guitar and a beast of an instrument? Or is it all hype and it doesn't have enough modern touches to stand up to other guitars today? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and come join the Discord to continue the discussion. This is YouTube, so I have to say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it, become a channel member, check out the Patreon, join that Discord, do a backflip, and as always, peace.